What happens when Springfield bans alcohol? The episode begins with a lively St. Patrick's Day parade, during which Bart accidentally becomes intoxicated. Mayor Quimby reluctantly agrees to enforce a 200-year-old prohibition law. However, the city consumes alcohol, aided in part by the mafia. When Chief Wiggum fails to enforce the law, the women demand a new chief who will uphold it. Rex Banner has been appointed as the new chief and immediately enforces the law. Homer devises a scheme to steal alcohol, establishing a black market that generates significant profits.
We're going out, Marge! If we don't come back, avenge our deaths!
All right!
People call him the Bear Baron. When Marge learns about it, she is pleasantly surprised by Homer's intelligence. Rex Banner continues to search for the Bear Baron. Homer soon runs out of alcohol, so he decides to make his own. After experiencing some technical difficulties, Homer finally decides to quit. Seeing Wiggum miserable after losing his job, Homer decides to help him catch the Bear Baron. Unfortunately for Homer, he did not anticipate the punishment. However, Marge intervenes and saves him. What happens when Bart discovers a secret affair? The episode starts with Bart attending Martin Prince's birthday party, which turns out to be a disaster, until Principal Skinner and Mrs. Crabapple sneak away and kiss. Only Bart witnesses this secret romance and uses it as blackmail to improve his school life. They use Bart to secretly exchange messages and even take him to dates. When they publicly humiliate Bart, he had enough and exposes their affair. Soon, the entire town discovers the affair. The scandal rocks Springfield as everyone turns against them, especially Superintendent Chalmers, who makes him choose between his job or Mrs. Krabapple's. He chooses Mrs. Crabapple, so they both get fired. Before leaving, he thanks Bart, then he inspires him to fight for himself. So they barricade themselves inside the school building. City uses every measure to bring them out, but it only brings them closer.
Turn the music off!
Ha! It's working like a charm, boys.
They demand to get their job back and their love acknowledged publicly. Public outrage ended when they learned Principal Skinner was a virgin and wasn't intimate in school. What happens when Bart receives a credit card? The episode begins with Bart applying for a credit card in the name of Santa's Little Helper. Once approved, he goes on a spending spree and even purchases items for his family. However, his most significant purchase is a well-trained collie named Laddie, who becomes his new best friend. Santa's Little Helper feels neglected and unwanted as Bart lavishes attention on Laddie. Meanwhile, the credit card company discovers the fraud and repossesses all of Bart's purchases, including Laddie.
The bassinet, but the baby's ours!
But Bart refers to Santa's Little Helper as Laddie, so they take him instead. During this time, Bart realizes how much he misses his old pet, Santa's Little Helper. Understanding that Laddie is not meant for him, he hands him over to the police force. Bart searches for his old dog, only to discover that he is with a blind man. Bart breaks into his house at night to retrieve his dog, but he gets caught. He and the blind man agree to let the dog choose whom he wants to live with. And he chose Bart, so now you know. What happens when Lisa helps Mr. Burns become wealthy again? The episode begins with Mr. Burns losing his entire fortune due to a series of poor investments. Soon, he is forced to live at the Springfield retirement home, where he does not fit in well. During her volunteer work, he meets Lisa. Desperate for money, Burns asks Lisa to help him recover his funds. Lisa initially refuses to help, but agrees to do so only if Burns adheres to her principles.
See that, boy? Why aren't you making any business deals?
I'll do it this afternoon.
They started a recycling business focused on collecting items from the ocean. As a gesture of appreciation, he names his recycling plant after Lisa. During the tour, he shows her the Burns OmniNet, which shocks her when she realizes it is actually a device that captures and grinds up marine life to create a multi-purpose slurry called Lil Lisa. As it endangers the environment, Lisa declines the $1 million that Burns offers her as her share. Watching that, Homer suffered 4 consecutive heart attacks. So now you know. What happens when Marge becomes the church counselor? The episode begins with Reverend Lovejoy delivering yet another tedious sermon, causing the congregation to doze off. Marge recognizes that the church needs assistants and volunteers to become the new counselor. She quickly becomes popular due to her practical advice and genuine concern, unlike Lovejoy, who lost his passion years ago. Lovejoy feels sad and worthless as everyone in Springfield begins turning to Marge with their problems. Meanwhile, Homer discovers a Japanese detergent box featuring his exact face called Mr. Sparkle. He becomes obsessed with discovering the reason behind his apparent fame in Japan. After an investigation, he learns that it's just a coincidence. The logo is a combination of a fish and a light bulb.
Come on, kids. Let's go home.
We are home.
Ned Flanders calls Marge to discuss bullies who are targeting him. When the bullies actually attack Ned, Marge calls Reverend Lovejoy for help. While escaping from the bullies, Flanders becomes trapped with baboons at the zoo. Reverend Lovejoy rescues Flanders through his heroic actions and rediscovers his passion for helping others. So now you know.